It's spring, y'all. It's time to be happy again. Instead, Boy Genius said, no, it's actually not. You have to cry to this album for 3 days straight, which is what I've been doing. So, how's life? March is over. She's cancelled. It's done. We're moving on. I haven't heard anybody do a single April Fool's joke. For that, I am immensely grateful. Anyway, you know what a wrap-up is. I'm gonna go over everything I read this month. Also, everything I watched. The first thing I read was Rip Van Winkle and also The Legend of Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irving. I read this for school. Personally, I was expecting more, especially from The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, I was expecting more of a solid story that was actually like entertaining, but it wasn't. There's mostly a lot of descriptions of mountains and stuff, and apparently that was very relevant because that's what the assignment was about. You know what, I don't really care for descriptions of mountains. The next thing I read, well, the next thing I finished actually, because I was reading The Beast for like the first 2 weeks of March, so it took me a hot minute. But anyway, Notes from the Underground by Dostoevsky. I was a bit embarrassed by how relatable this main character was to, like, not current me, maybe. I'm not that pretentious anymore, but like 15-year-old me would have ate this up. Except I wasn't a huge misogynist back then, and I'm still not now. That's kind of where it stopped being relatable. But yeah, I also hate the bourgeoisie. I think he made some points. I just think that he grew a bit bitter over it. It's kind of pointless. But then again, he did realize that. I don't know what it says about me that I found this relatable. I think I need to take a good long hard look in the mirror and discuss that with myself. It's probably not a good thing. The next thing I read was, oh, that's not gonna work. Antiboy by Valentijn Hoogkamp, which I had already read before. I read it in December, but it was book week in the Netherlands. There were these book clubs in my city with the authors there. I could only go if I bought a ticket, and with a ticket I will also get a book. So now I have 2 of these. Let me know if you want this book, because I have 2 of them. Anyway, this one's my favorite because obviously I let the author sign it. Yeah, we had a really great conversation, not just me and him, but like me and everyone who was in the room, mostly everyone who was in the room. I don't talk much. It was very interesting to talk with an author about their book, especially hearing about like how other people perceived it, because this is very autobiographical. So the thoughts that people had on this book were also very much like on the experience of the author, which must be a wild experience for him to get feedback on that from random people he's never met. This is a book about a guy who has to have a mastectomy because of cancer in his family. It's during that he decides to come out as trans. Like, he kind of always knew that there was something off, like he never really felt like a girl. This is when he decides to come out with that. And it's about the people in his life responding to that mostly. And yeah, it's very, very, very short, but it packs a punch. And I really love this one. As I mentioned, The Beast. I finally fucking did it. Oh my god, it's so heavy. I read The Secret History by Donna Tartt, and I had thoughts. Only some of them good. Let's get it over with, okay? First things first, the writing is phenomenal. It's so good. Absolutely no complaints. It's perfect. The thing is, however, the story, it didn't work for me. People know what this is about, right? This is a book about a group of pretentious Greek students who are up to weird shit, illegal shit. The thing is though, they are onto some weird shit, but the main character, the narrator, if you will, is not a part of that. He doesn't know what's going on, and that annoyed the actual living shit out of me because I wanted to read about these people. Okay, wait, there's probably gonna be some spoilers ahead, so like skip to this part if you still wanna read this book. The thing is, these people were holding wild nude seances in the woods, being possessed by ancient Greek gods, running around, feral, naked, covered in blood. And I didn't get to read that. That was just told to me. Like, I want to read about people going fucking feral in the woods. Like, Camilla was possessed by Artemis. Think about that for a second. It wasn't said, was never mentioned again, She thought she was a stag. That's Artemis. We could have been reading that. Instead, what we were reading was about a lot of anxiety surrounding a crime that this main character wasn't even involved in. Well, he was involved in the second crime, which, by the way, I could not fucking wait for because Bunny was... I wanted him to die as soon as possible. But then when he was finally dead, I had to read 300 more pages about the aftermath of that. And I didn't care. I didn't care. I just wanted to move on. And I just wanted to read more of the wild, nude seances in the woods, magic, ancient Greek god rites. That's what I wanted to read about. That was not what this book is, and that annoyed the shit out of me. So, rant over, I guess. I'm kind of over it at this point because it's been a while and I've let it slide, but the more I think back on it now, the more I'm like, this was just not what I wanted. So yeah, sadly, disappointment. My hair is unwilling to cooperate today. Anyways, the next thing I read for uni was Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad, which... Do you know those classics where like you're reading words or like you're registering at least the fact that you're reading words and none of it is making sense to you? That's what this book was. People call that dense. It was dense, but I also feel like there just wasn't a lot going on aside from a white colonizer realizing that African people are human beings. The question asked in the lecture was, is this still relevant today? Not really, actually. If that's still where we're at now, we have a big problem. I shouldn't have touched it. Let me go fix this. I should never ever touch it again now. I'm a bit scared for that bit, but okay, anyway. This is Julian by Fleur Pedets. In case you saw my February wrap-up, yeah, you would have heard me talk about Heerlijk Monster by the same author. This, again, is an autobiographical book. This follows the premise... My dishwasher is done. This is about a lesbian couple who planned to get married in every single country where gay marriage was legalized. This is a real story, like this truly happened, or well, almost happened. They started, I believe, in 2017, and they got to 4 countries before Julian was diagnosed with a brain tumor. She died 6 weeks later. So they never got to finish that project. This book is the product that came out of it instead. Also, this is being turned into a movie currently, like as we speak. This is hands down the most devastating book I have read in my entire life. Yeah, I really don't think I've ever read anything that broke my heart the way that this book did. The first line of this book is, "My favorite love story is ours." I have to agree, it's mine too, because imagine loving someone so much that you would marry them 22 times. Also, they sold every single thing that they owned, their house and all of their possessions, in order to be able to pay for this and to travel that much. So when Julian died, she had absolutely nothing in the world left. This book is really about her processing that grief. She talks a lot about other people grieving, other writers grieving, other queer people grieving. She mentions Joan Didion a lot, The Year of Magical Thinking. There's a lot of stories of other queer people grieving, obviously, because grief and queerness coincides a lot of the time. At the heart of this is half love story and half grieving journal, really. Absolutely devastating. I have never read anything this fucking sad in my life. Like, if this was fiction, I would be so goddamn angry that anyone decided to write this, but it's not. Like, this is just life. It was a lot, but I'm very, very glad that I read it. It's also probably my favorite Dutch book that I ever read. I feel like it's really hard to write beautifully in Dutch, but she managed to do it. This book is so beautifully written. It's really, really excellent. If you read Dutch and you can handle sadness, you have to read this book. Next book I read for uni was Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. This was actually the reason that we had to read Heart of Darkness, put this in the context of what this was written as a response to. And in that sense, it made sense that we had to read The Heart of Darkness. So I'm grateful we didn't read that in vain, because that was a chore. This was not a chore. This was very easy to read, a lot more entertaining. There's a lot more going on. The main character I did not like, but you weren't meant to like him. The progression that he goes through is very interesting. What I will say about this book, it is well written, but it just feels like it wasn't edited. This book is now 50, 60 years old or something, and I'm like, why can't we go back and edit it now because there's like a lot of repetition. Sometimes even on the same page, it's repeated who someone is. And I'm like, yeah, I remember. But other than that, it is really good. I've had this recommended before I even started at uni, so I would also recommend it. It's a very fresh perspective on the colonization of Africa from an African perspective. Then I read Kim Jong Born. I can pronounce Korean names, that's fine. I cannot pronounce numbers. I was wary about this book because when I'd heard people talking about it, I mostly heard them be like, misogyny is real. And I was like, yeah, I know that. But I decided to read it anyway to see for myself. I was somewhat surprised by how it's not just about how misogyny is real, but it's also very much about the trauma of being raised into womanhood. I did think it was interesting in that sense, and I did think that it made some good points. I even liked the main character, even though it was written very like matter-of-factly, like it didn't really feel engaging at all, and that was the point. I'll give her that. I still like the main character. I liked her mother very much, but like I said, it is written very matter-of-factly, and I mean, it's okay because it's a very short book, so like it's fine to like jump through somebody's life that quickly. You have to kind of pace through it, right? And also at the end it's revealed like why it's written that way, like who is narrating this. But I felt like I was baited a little bit with the first chapter where she is like possessed by first her own mother and then later by her husband's ex-girlfriend or something. And that's very weird. Like she knows things about him that she's not supposed to know, that only that girl would have known about him. That's crazy, like that's cool. That was supposed to be like this allegory for how she's like every woman of Korea because of what society puts women through. But it wasn't touched upon after that whatsoever, like at all. We didn't return to that. I just wanted more of that, you know? When you give me something weird, like in The Secret History, I want more of the weird. I don't want to read all the normal things. I want to read the weird. So this book also kind of let me down on that. And also I did feel like, especially the ending was very much on the nose. And I don't really mind that, but I just feel like this could have been more. And it could have been worked out better, I think. I don't know. I felt about it. I'm currently reading a lot short stories by Brian Washington. I haven't read very many of them, even though I started like right at the beginning of March. And I think that's because these stories are not weird. I feel like with short stories, I want to read a weird thing for a couple of pages and then it's over and I can be like, wow, that was weird. This is mostly just about people cheating. Every other story is about the same characters, part of the same universe, but so far they haven't really intrigued me yet either. So I don't know, there hasn't been one that really like jumped out for me. They all kind of have the same tone, so I'm not really like dying to read this every day or something. It's good, it's well written, but it's not really something that I want to speed through. And then I'm also reading The Woman Destroyed by Simone de Beauvoir, whose writing is fucking phenomenal. This is 3 short stories, but they're so long, they might as well be novellas. The first one is about a woman who is aging. She's like past middle-aged, her son is an adult, he's married, she doesn't like his wife, and she's quickly realizing that she's becoming irrelevant to her son and to the world, and that's like having an effect on her life and her mental state. So that's what I'm reading now. Then, the movies I watched. I saw 5 movies this month. The first one I saw was Tar. This movie is directed by a man, but I would like to say it's directed by the lesbian gaze. I have never seen a movie that lesbian. Not just gay, not queer. It was a lesbian movie. It was lovely. Yeah, it was just Cate Blanchett being a lesbian, being a bit obnoxious, questioning cancel culture. However, I will say it was about an hour too long. Most of the time these days, my main complaint about movies is that they're too long. I don't know who has decided that movies should be over 2 hours these days. Why? Why is that? I don't think that's necessary. I don't think there's any reason for a movie to be longer than like 100 minutes. 100 minutes is perfect. After that, I am bored. It doesn't matter what you show me. It doesn't matter if you have Cate Blanchett in suits, being a lesbian, being iconic, calling herself daddy in German. After 100 minutes, I'm done. Like, I'm ready to go home. So that was my main complaint about Tar. But if you want to see lesbianism on the big screen, yeah, that's your movie. I wasn't a Cate Blanchett girly before, but I get it now. The next movie I saw was Silver Haze, which is a British movie that came out this year. It's miserable is the best way to put it. It's a movie about lesbians. It's a movie about a girl who has survived a fire, played by an actress who has survived a fire, which is really cool. I think she won a prize for it. That's the reason I went to see it in the first place. The thing with me is I study film. Well, actually at the moment I'm not really studying film, but like on paper I study film. Last semester I had to watch a lot of realistic movies and I am sick and tired of them. There's something so incredibly boring about them. Watching people being miserable. At least this movie wasn't too long. I think it was the perfect amount of time. And there were some characters that I liked. There were some scenes that I liked. Obviously, the acting was good. It's just, you can only handle so many movies like that in like a year, and then you're just over it. Didn't love that, but it's probably me. Then also wasn't last week. I think 2 weeks ago, I saw Lemencita with Penelope Cruz as mother. You heard that right. This movie is about a trans boy growing up in Rome in the 70s. Oh my god, this movie, it did things to me. I don't know if it was actually good. I think it was. It was realism, by the way, but at least it was in history, so that makes it a bit different. And also, it's about summer. There's this nice Italian vibe, because it is Italian. Penelope Cruz speaks Italian, apparently. She plays the mother of this trans boy. She loves him so much. There's a lot of drama in the movie, but it's not necessarily about him being trans. Him being trans obviously is a problem because it's the 70s in the most Catholic city in the world. So it's not necessarily celebrated, but the fact in itself isn't like the main drama of the movie. The main drama of the movie is that his dad is a piece of shit, but like, it'd be like that sometimes. This movie was so fucking lovely to me. Also, it was part musical for some reason, which was fresh. I loved it so much. It's the story of the director himself. Yeah, this movie did something to my heart. I'm considering going to see it again. I think that's the first trans movie I've seen that made me feel good afterwards. A few days later, I saw EO, which is a movie about a donkey. That is all I can say about it. I watched 100 minutes, perfect length, of a donkey. The funny thing about this movie is it actually had me crack up a little bit. They used every single film technique in the history of film to put this monkey on the screen. And I respect it. It was a very cute donkey, by the way. Then a few days ago, I watched Blade Runner because I had never seen it before. Like I said, I study film, so like people talk about it a lot, and I felt like I was missing out. To be honest, I don't think I was. Honestly, I was just rooting for the replicants the entire time because I did not understand why they were bad. And I feel like that was not addressed at all. Like, they weren't bad. They just wanted to live longer than 4 years, which like, so would humans. I didn't understand why that was wrong. Also, if all the humans had already left the planet anyway, what the fuck did it matter if the replicants were taking over planet Earth? Leave them be. Why did Harrison Ford have to violently murder them in the middle of the street? Like, seemed a bit unnecessary to me. But anyway, I saw that movie now, so. Okay, and I also want to talk about TV series I watched. Because first of all, The Last of Us ended. I cried for the entirety of the last episode. Can I just say how wonderful it was to see a little baby lesbian just being gay, being a child. I mean, she's 14, but like, very heartwarming and very lovely. I would die for Ellie. And also for Joel. It's such a feat to make a bunch of lesbians like a man in a show. They did a really good job with that. I also need to address Daisy Jones and the Six. I haven't finished it because I just stopped caring. I mentioned in my last wrap-up that I was obsessed with the album that they made for the show, and I am. It's still, like, it's great. It's a fantastic album, and I was excited to see how that album would be made on the show. That all happened in episode 6. After that, I didn't care. I watched episode 7 and it was so predictable. May I say it, poorly written, poorly acted. I couldn't care anymore. I'm quite disappointed by how the show turned out because this one actually did have a very big budget, and Evelyn Hugo will not have a very big budget, nor a lot of time. I'm scared, but hey, we'll always have the book. Well, anyways, then the only other thing I watched this month is Conk on Earth. I had the time of my life. That was everything. What else am I watching? The L Word got cancelled. Are we surprised? Are we sad? Yeah, a little bit, honestly. Any other news? Oh, right. I'm getting top surgery next month, if all goes according to plan, and I'm very stressed out about that. Anyway, tell me about the things that you've read and watched and enjoyed this month. Read Stonebridge Blues, maybe. That was it, I guess. Next time you see me, I will be titless. You probably won't really notice that. You've never seen my tits, but yeah. Bye.